Exposed, the haunted secrets of this small town's sinister urban legend revealed. After 30 years the sun split the sky, bright and bold, but in an instant, something shifted. Dark clouds rolled in, swallowing the light, casting a shadow over Willow Creek. Children's laughter turned into spooky whispers, and dread hung thick in the air. Sarah, a single mother, felt it creeping in. The town was restless. 30 years ago, a girl vanished without a trace, but her ghost lingered, haunting the dreams of Willow Creek. Her children, Emma and Jake, tossed and turned at night, nightmares clawing at their innocence. Sarah couldn't ignore the threat hiding beneath the surface. Her instincts screamed for her to put an end to this madness. As Sarah rushed home from work that day, the flickering streetlights felt wrong, almost sinister. She brushed her hand against the cold metal of the car door, her heart racing. The kids had come home from school shaken, whispering about eerie messages from their friends. "She is coming back," they said, eyes wide and fearful. The neighbors she once exchanged pleasantries with now looked at her like she was carrying the town's dark secret on her shoulders. What had happened in Willow Creek? Fear gripped her. She couldn't let her children spiral into this terror. With resolve, Sarah decided to confront it head-on. "Let us go to the old school," she declared, her voice steady despite the chill gnawing at her spine. Every instinct warned her against it. The place where the girl disappeared was still a ghostly shell. As she stood before the creaking door, she felt a shiver that had nothing to do with the cold. The hallway was littered with broken glass and dust, shadows creeping like fingers, reaching out to her. Whispering sounds filled her ears, scratching at her mind. Flashes of the girl's face danced in front of her eyes, and in that moment, she was frozen. Later that night, the atmosphere grew denser. Shadows flitted past the windows like searching phantoms. Sarah could hear muffled voices, whispering her name. Goosebumps prickled her skin, and she clenched her fists, howling wind rattling the house, every creak igniting her anxiety. The kids begged her to keep the lights on. "Mommy, please." Emma whimpered, clutching Jake's hand tightly. They whimpered about figures lurking outside, nightmares twisting into waking horror. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Panic settled deeper in her gut. As she confronted her neighbors, she could feel the tension thickening. The once warm smiles twisted into grimaces, their eyes slipping away from hers. Every question she asked felt like throwing stones into a well, rippling unease emanating back. Their dismissals piqued her suspicion. What were they hiding? The truth was buried deep, entangled with the town's most respected citizens. The legends of old swirled in her mind like storm clouds. When she finally reached the mayor, the weight of his two-faced smile sent a shudder through her. The old school was their shame, and she was drawing too close to the truth. With her children's safety at stake, Sarah found herself on a razor's edge, peering into the dark chasm of Willow Creek's legacy. The shadows drew nearer, and as she pieced together the town's web of deceit, a sharp chill reminded her she might be more exposed than she'd ever imagined. Someone had been watching, and the legend was alive, spinning a sinister crescendo poised to unleash its horror. The night dragged on, heavy with dread. Sarah glanced at the clock, her heart thudding in time with the ticking. Her children lay asleep, but the whispers had settled into her bones, each echo a reminder that she could not ignore. She needed answers. The shadows loomed around the edges when Sarah slipped out of the bedroom, careful not to wake Emma and Jake. Her footsteps creaked with a weight that pressed against her chest. She felt it then, a presence in the hallway, cold and distant, brushing against her shoulder as she passed. She shuddered but pressed on. She needed to go to the old school again, needed to confront whatever lingered in its dark corners. As she stepped outside into the night, the air was thick with mist and unease. The moon struggled to break through the clouds, casting distorted shapes on the pavement. One by one, the streetlights flickered to life, but their glow felt weak, hesitant. It was as if the darkness itself tightened around her, pulling her back toward the house, toward safety, whispering that she was not alone. With every step toward the school, her mind replayed the story she'd heard, the hushed voices in the diner, the terrified children in her own home. What are they hiding? She murmured, swallowed by the enveloping shadow. When she reached the school, the door creaked open without her touch, revealing a yawning darkness that beckoned. The chill intensified, wrapping around her like a shroud. Mustering every ounce of courage, Sarah stepped inside, her heart pounding like a drum against the silence. The gymnasium stretched out before her, the old bleachers looming like the skeletons of the past. Moonlight seeped through the broken windows, casting ghostly bars of light on the ground. She could almost feel the presence of the girl, crushed beneath the weight of what had happened here. "You're not alone," Sarah whispered into the void, then nearly yelped at the sound of her own voice reverberating off the walls. Then she heard it, a soft, unmistakable giggle. It was childlike, innocent, and yet dripping with something dark. Goosebumps raced up her arms. "Is someone there?" She called out, her voice quaking in the stillness. Silence answered her. But just as she was turning to leave, a faint sigh floated through the air, tugging at her heart, pulling her deeper. It beckoned her toward the storage room in the back. There was nothing left untouched in her journey here tonight. She had to find out what lay behind that door. As she approached, the door swung open on its own, revealing a pitch-black interior. She hesitated. The warnings of her children screamed in her ears. But she had to know. Summoning courage, she stepped forward. The air grew colder, almost thick, wrapping around her like a vice. Inside, whispers swirled, swirling into a cacophony of anguish. "Sarah," the plea resonated, chilling her to the core. "Is it you?" She gasped, searching the darkness for a source, but found only deep shadows. The whispers morphed into a haunting melody. Someone had been waiting for her. Out of the darkness, a figure stepped into the dim light, the faint outline of a girl with hollow eyes and pale skin. Sarah froze. "Help me," she whispered, but the word broke like glass. Sarah's heart raced, flooding her with adrenaline laced with terror. "I'm here," she managed to say, but the words felt hollow, swallowed by the void. Just then, the school's window shattered in a gust of wind, filling the room with splintered glass and swirling darkness. Sarah turned, panic rising. As she tried to escape, the figure lunged forward, fingertips grazing her arm. A cold surge of fear pulsed through her, and in that moment, she realized this was only the beginning. Racing toward the exit, she saw shadows twisting and swirling, the air thick with despairing groans. Her heart pounded with one terrifying realization: something was following her. What was this entity, and why had it chosen to reveal itself now? As she tumbled out into the night, gasping for breath, Sarah knew she had awakened something far darker than she ever imagined. The soft giggle echoed again, haunting her thoughts as she ran, leaving her breathless and bewildered. "What now?" she whispered, staring back at the school. The entity was very much real, and its thirst for truth was insatiable. But what sinister secret would it force her to uncover next? Sarah stumbled through the darkened streets, her breath coming in ragged gasps as panic coiled around her like a vice. The giggle echoed in her ears, a mocking reminder of the horror she'd exposed at the school. It followed her, she was certain of it. With every heartbeat, uncertainty grew, gnawing at her resolve. "What do you want from me?" she whispered into the night, her voice trembling, swallowed by the dense fog. She stopped to lean against a lamppost, its flickering light casting long, wavering shadows. The street stretched out before her, empty and eerie. The darkness felt alive, pulsating, watching. Silence enveloped her again, thick and suffocating. Then, the whispers returned, insidious and insistent, weaving through her mind like tendrils of smoke. "Help me. Just stop," Sarah cried out, her voice breaking. "Just leave me alone." But the whispers only intensified, a warbling chorus that blurred reality and fed her fears. She pressed her hands to her ears, trying to block out the noise, but it seeped through her resolve, invading her thoughts. She needed to get home, to protect Emma and Jake. They couldn't be left alone with whatever this was. Panic propelled her feet forward, each step spinning her deeper into a dread that pooled inside her. She didn't notice the sharp turn, didn't realize she'd walked down a familiar alley until she stopped at the entrance. It opened like a gaping mouth, leading into darkness, its bricks weathered from years of secrets. Maybe they know, she whispered. The whispers had begun to intertwine with her thoughts, turning what was once a necessary choice into a desperate need. If she were to face this entity, she had to uncover the truth. With every ounce of courage, she slipped into the alley, heart racing. The air inside was stagnant, heavy with memories long buried. Sarah sensed movement, shadows blending into each other as they curled along the walls. "I just want to know what happened here," she shouted, her voice loud against the stillness. Suddenly, a figure stepped from the shadows, familiar yet distorted, a friend from her childhood, a girl with a wild mane of hair and a smile that once filled her with warmth. But now her features were gaunt, eyes sunken, reflecting the horror lurking in the recesses of Sarah's own heart. Sarah, the girl's voice was smooth, almost soothing, but held an undercurrent of something unholy. "You have to listen. It's not safe. You've awakened them." "Awakened who? What does that mean?" Sarah felt her knees buckle slightly. The reality was unraveling around her. "Those who came before us, those who suffered. They will show you what you need," she replied, her words laced with urgency. "You must go back to the school." "Why?" Sarah knew she should run, but curiosity held her frozen. "What will I find there?" The girl extended a hand, her movements graceful yet unsettling. "Truth, Sarah. Fear keeps you imprisoned, but understanding can set you free." Before Sarah could respond, the shadows behind the girl swirled violently, their desperate whispers growing to a howl. The alley resonated with a terrifying energy, pulling at her resolve, threatening to drag her into the depths of despair. "No! I can't!" she screamed, stumbling back. The vision of her friend twisted, the girl's face contorting into a grotesque mask of sorrow and evil. "Not all will survive," the truth echoed in a chilling, distorted tone, as the shadows lunged toward her. Throwing herself back into the night, Sarah bolted, breathless sobs tearing from her throat. Frantic, she stumbled away from the alley. Every instinct screamed for her to run, but an overwhelming dread throbbed behind her eyes. What fresh horror lay waiting in the school? And what did it mean to truly confront the past? Sarah dared not look back, but something deep inside urged her forward. The shadows, the whispers, the truth, they called to her. "Why do you haunt me?" she gasped, each step heavy with fear. "I have to protect my children." And somewhere in the darkness, the giggle returned, eerily triumphant. It echoed in her mind as beliefs shattered, leaving only the cold weight of dread pressing down, forcing her back toward the very heart of her terror. What secrets awaited her inside the school? What shadows would rise to consume her? Sarah tore through the streets, each heartbeat booming like a war drum in her ears. The giggle tapered off, mocking her desperate flight, as if it were just inches behind. She could almost feel the cold breath, but it was her own panic swirling in the cool night air. "I have to get home," she muttered through clenched teeth, a mantra against the rising tide of horror swallowing her thoughts. The school loomed ahead, its dark silhouette just visible through the fog. She hesitated, the whispering shadows curling around her legs like smoke arresting her momentum. Images of Emma and Jake flashed in her mind. Their faces, innocent and unaware of the chaos, sent a spear of guilt slicing through her. She had to protect them. But at what cost? What did she truly know about the evil now crawling back to life? Suddenly, the shadows danced nearer, flickering and twisting like twisted branches in a storm. A shiver ran down her spine. The uncertainty was blinding, but she had no choice. "It's just a building," she told herself, yet dread dripped from her words. "Just a school." With a shaky breath, she turned and made her way up the crumbling steps, each creak echoing like a scream through the stillness. The door hung ajar, and she felt the cold air rush past her, chilling her to the bone. The moment she crossed the threshold, voices flooded her mind. Familiar, yet tainted. "Help us," they pleaded. A choir of lost souls reached out, drenching her in anguish. With trembling hands, she gripped the doorway, feeling a pull from within the darkness. The interior was cloaked in a suffocating blackness. Broken desks lay scattered, remnants of forgotten lessons, and peeling paint adorned the walls. A low hum surged through the air, vibrating against her skin. Just like at the alley, the whispers called to her, only this time they were clearer, sharper, almost tangible. "What do you want?" she screamed, terror cracking her voice as desperation melted her resolve. Silence followed her outburst, unsettling and complete. Then, from somewhere deep inside the building, echoed the giggle louder and sharper. It echoed through the halls, twisting her stomach in knots. Sarah advanced into the darkness, guided by the eerie sound. Each step felt like stepping into the mouth of a beast ready to swallow her whole. As she rounded a corridor, the memories struck her like lightning. The classroom where she had laughed, where the shadows of the past promised safety. But then, the incident. The horror she had buried so deep inside. Faces of her childhood friends flashed in her mind, pale, terrified, their laughter now replaced with screams. They knew, she remembered, they had all known. "No," she whispered. "This can't be happening." A door creaked open at the end of the hall, an invitation. Populated by shadows that seemed to ripple with life. She didn't want to go in, but the compulsion grew too strong. It tugged at her heart, gnawed away at her sanity. Inside, the remnants of the old classroom lay untouched by time, just like how she last remembered it: dusty desks, forgotten books, and a chalkboard inscribed with faded messages. And amidst it, a lone figure stood. The girl with the gaunt face. The friend who had reached out to her. "You came back, good," the girl said, her voice honeyed but laced with malice. "You're finally ready to join us." "What are you?" Sarah breathed, feeling her legs weaken. She wouldn't let this specter pull her in. "I'm not like you." The giggle morphed into laughter, shattering, victorious. "You've always been one of us, Sarah." And then the room felt smaller. The walls flickered, merging with each other, blurring into an endless void of shadows. Sarah gasped, her heart racing as the truth pushed forward, wrestling with her fear. Only those who face their fears will survive. The eyes of her friend glinted, revealing the reality beneath the surface. Sarah took a step back, but the shadows advanced, their whispers entwined with her name. Panic surged. She needed to flee. The lingering dread brushed against her skin, sharp as glass. But what would she find outside beyond the door? Safety? Or a world forever altered by the haunting truths awaiting revelation? In that moment, she knew turning back might not be possible. But if the truth was hidden amongst shadows, she had to delve deeper or risk losing everything. What fate awaited her? Secrets long buried were clawing their way to the surface. Would the price of knowledge be too great a sacrifice? The shadows clawed closer, invading her space, tightening their grip around her. Sarah's throat tightened as she felt her heart thrumming against her ribs, a frantic drum signaling defeat. She blinked, trying to make sense of the swirling darkness. The girl in front of her, her friend, had become something other, something vile and taunting. "No! I don't belong to you!" Sarah shouted, voice cracking as she tried to push away the oppressive atmosphere. Yet, the shadows whispered sweet lies, wrapping around her like a favorite, yet tainted childhood blanket. The laughter echoed again, filling her head with memories she desperately wanted to forget. Each peal felt like 1,000 hands tossing out hooks to reel her in. "You always tried to leave us, Sarah. But we're family. Forever. Stop it. You're not real." She screamed, fists balled at her sides. The air thickened, sending a chill creeping down her spine. The gaunt figure tilted her head, eyes glinting with a predatory glee that sent a wave of nausea washing over Sarah. Stumbling backward, she reached for the door. It felt more like a dark maw than an escape. As her fingers brushed the cool metal, a buzzing energy surged through her, igniting a flicker of strength. "I won't let you take me," she whispered, a desperate mantra against the flood of fear. But as she turned toward the door, the darkness surged. Shadows swung and whipped like snakes, encircling her legs, pulling her back. "Come play, Sarah. We've missed you." "No. Let me go," she cried, but her voice sounded weak, swallowed by the laughter that danced around her. The flickering light above began to buzz, the bulb threatening to falter. Each flicker mirrored the conflict inside her. She knew the truth, sobering and cold it was her fear that fed them. It was her past they craved. Suddenly, a memory ignited in her mind, a vision of Emma and Jake. Innocent, small figures trapped in darkness, much like this room, lost in distortion. The urge to protect them gave her strength. "I will find you. I promise," she whispered, letting the thought bloom like a flower in the dark. With every ounce of determination, she lifted her foot against the coils of shadow restraining her. "You can't hold me!" she screamed, forcing her way to the door. Their laughter faltered for just a moment. That moment was all she needed. She flung the door open and threw herself into the hallway, the shadow screaming in outrage as she surged forward. The cold rushed to embrace her, a deceptive comfort against the chaos she left behind. But as she dashed down the corridor, where was the end? The looming darkness seemed to stretch ahead endlessly, a gaping void. The giggle morphed into shrieks. "You can't leave. You belong here." Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps, each one echoing like a clarion call of terror. The reminders of laughter haunted her still. The memories of Emma and Jake danced in her consciousness, flickering like distant fireflies or impending doom. She bolted past classrooms filled with twisted, grotesque shapes, longing faces pressing against the glass, crying for recognition, for release. "Leave me alone!" she shouted, thrumming with urgency. As she turned a corner, a window glowed ahead, faintly illuminated. It promised a world beyond these walls, fresh air, and perhaps the truth. With renewed determination, she sped toward it, fear thrumming through her veins. But as she lunged for safety, a figure emerged from the shadows, a dark silhouette blocking her path. The gaunt face she had seen before twisted into a sinister grin. "Going somewhere?" The ground beneath her quaked as the realization hit this was only the beginning. Did she dare push through the darkness? Would her search for Emma and Jake lead her deeper into the hell she was trying to escape? Before Sarah could ask the questions circling her frantic mind, the darkness behind her swelled, ready to swallow her whole. The figure extended a hand to her, skeletal fingers beckoning. "You can't fight fate, Sarah. You must choose." What awaited her on the other side of that choice? Would the truth offer freedom, or would it bind her in chains darker than the shadows? Panic raced through Sarah as the gaunt figure moved closer, a pulsating dread beneath her skin. She could smell damp earth mixed with something rotten, decomposing hopes and long-buried fears. "Choose?" she echoed, the word tasting bitter on her tongue. "What do you mean, choose?" The figure tilted its head, an unsettling smile spreading wide, cracking the pale skin around its lips. "You've wandered too far, sweet Sarah. You can embrace the shadows or embrace the truth," it whispered, each word dripping with malice. "But in either choice, you'll lose a part of yourself." All the air seemed to evaporate around her. She turned, desperately flinging her gaze down the hallway. Shadows clung to every corner, reaching out with claw-like fingers, as if begging her to join them. "I won't give in," she yelled, filling her lungs with the weight of determination. "I want to find Emma and Jake." For a heartbeat, the laughter fell away, replaced by an eerie silence that felt like a breath being held frozen in time. And then she felt it, an echoing whisper, a secret regret. "You think they are waiting for you?" The figure's voice turned low, curling around her like smoke. "They were never meant to wait, they were drawn in by the same gravity that calls to you now." "Shut up!" Sarah screamed, pushing past the paralyzing confusion. She had to keep moving. There was no point in lingering here where twisted memories took form, she needed to fight her way to the truth. With one last glance backward, Sarah surged toward the only glimmer of hope, the glowing window at the end of the corridor. She ran as if her life depended on it, throwing herself with reckless abandon, the temperature dropping as she neared. Just as she reached out for the window's frame, fingers trembling against the smooth glass, the room trembled with fury. "You can't escape, Sarah. You will regret leaving us." The shadows behind her writhed angrily, thrusting forth, forming monstrous shapes that howled her name, hungry for her to succumb. But her mind cleared then, a desperate spark igniting. The truth will save them. She screamed into the darkness, as she forced the window open. The chill night air rushed in, a stark contrast to the suffocating presence behind her. Yet, a heavy grip latched around her ankle. Falling back, Sarah was yanked to the floor. The weight of despair rushed over her like an avalanche. But she wasn't done. She could feel the energy, raw and potent, like fire in her veins igniting every corner of her being. She threw her other leg back, kicking violently against the shadows that sought her, clawing for her spirit. The figure loomed above her, its grin ever more sinister, as if it were reveling in her struggle. You cannot fight what is bound to you, child. The pain you feel is just a reflection. Your pain brings delight to this realm. No! She yelled, dragging herself along the floor, pulling herself closer to the window. Each inch became a battle. From somewhere deep within, she felt a burst of strength, born from love and desperation for Emma and Jake. You are nothing. She gathered the last of her resolve and lashed out at the shadows, a fierce scream tearing through her throat. The shadows recoiled as if struck, but the figure steadied itself, eyes shimmering with malicious glee. You will regret this, Sarah. You will see what we have waiting for you. With one final effort, Sarah lunged toward the window. She pushed through, shattering the grasp of claws drawn from shadows. As she fell through, the world spun around her. But when she landed, she didn't find the freedom she chased. Instead, she found herself in the same classroom, back where it all began. The light flickered and the air grew cold. And from the darkened corners of the room, faint echoes of laughter drifted, filling the silence familiar, yet foreboding. Had she truly escaped, or had she stepped into a deeper nightmare? The sounds of whispers filled the air once more, and as they grew louder, Sarah realized something chilling: she was not alone anymore. What had returned with her from the darkness? The laughter echoed like shards of glass, cutting into Sarah's fragile resolve. The classroom was dim, suffocating, each flicker of the light above failing to dispel the oppressive shadows. She pressed her back against the cool wall, heart pounding. They were everywhere, stirring in the corners, forming faces she had once known, friends, family, all twisted by the veil of night. Emma, Jake. She called out, her voice a desperate whisper. But there was no answer, only that mocking laughter, building and crashing like waves against her sanity. Each sound sent shivers racing down her spine, squeezing out the air in her lungs. The blackboards were smeared with chaos, but the words that loomed in the darkness were deep and troubling, remnants of fear and loss. Why did you come back? A voice mused from the shadows, smooth and eerie, like silk drawn across a razor. Sarah turned, searching, her vision darting from one obscured corner to another. You could have left, yet here you are. How charming. She gritted her teeth, forcing herself not to tremble. I'm not afraid of you. Not afraid? The figure stepped forward, its face cloaked in shadow save for the gleam of eyes, shining like stars in a darkened sky. Then why do you feel so small? Sarah shook her head, desperation clawing at her throat. I will find them. I won't leave without them. So noble, sweet Sarah. It lingered over her, a seething mass of darkness. But courage doesn't always mean survival. In your quest for truth, the darkness only thickens. Do you know their fate? No, stop. Panic flooded her voice, spilling over in frantic waves. You don't get to control this. The laughter shifted, twisting and spinning, tightening around her. Control? Ah, but you already submitted to the shadows. The walls began to close in, the air turning viscous, heavy like treacle. She gasped, feeling the nighttime shadows dragging her back, whispering pieces of despair into her ear. Join us, embrace the inevitable, let go. In a last act of defiance, Sarah crouched down, claws out, a wild animal ready to fight. Get away from me. Very well, the figure replied, tilting its head in delight. Let us see what the truth brings you. Suddenly, the classroom shifted around her. Desks flipped over, the blackboards splintered into shards, and the floor heaved as if the very foundation was rejecting her presence. Sarah's breath quickened, the shrill of adrenaline surging as everything spun out of control. Then, a flash caught in a whisper, a glimpse of her brother's face, wide-eyed and terrified. "Help, Sarah! Jake!" The words tore from her as she lunged forward, reaching for a spectral hand that faded into the darkness. An unseen force yanked her back, a gruesome laughter echoing around her like a sick chant. "Playtime is fun, Sarah, but you'll wake up soon and you won't like what you find." Before she could scream again, the shadows coiled around her tight and unyielding. And then, quiet. The oppressive weight lifted, and Sarah found herself back in the sleepy little town square, the sun rising on the horizon. But something felt wrong. The streets were too still, too quiet. Not a soul in sight. Sarah's heart raced as dread settled like frost on her skin. "Where is everyone?" she muttered, bewildered. Then, she heard the soft sound of feet shuffling behind her. She turned slowly, heart lodged in her throat, and felt the cold breath of dread wash over her. The shadowy figure loomed once again, a mere step away, and this time, it grinned with recognition. Time to choose again, sweet Sarah. What choice remained for her now? Sarah's breath hitched. The grin on the shadowy figure's face stretched wider, revealing jagged teeth that almost glimmered in the morning light. The air felt thick, electric, buzzing with an unspoken threat. She took a step back, every instinct screaming to run, but terror held her feet nailed to the ground. "Choose?" she repeated, her voice trembling. "What are you talking about?" "Ah, choices, such delicious temptations." The figure swayed, an uncanny dance, as if it thrived on her fear. "You know what must be done if you want to see them again." "Who? Emma? Jake?" Such sweet nostalgia, it cooed, voice dripping with mockery. "But I fear they are beyond your reach, darling. Or perhaps, you'd like to join them? A nice family reunion, wouldn't you agree?" Shaking her head, Sarah stumbled back, desperately scanning her surroundings for an escape. The street was deserted. Windows of the neighboring buildings were blank, staring like hollow eyes. Shadows flickered in corners, teasing her with glimpses of the loved ones she longed for. They beckoned from within the darkness, pulling at her heart. "Stop it. Just tell me where they are." She felt the tears pricking at her eyelids. The figure's laughter surged again, an echo that made her skin crawl. "Do you really believe you are the hero in this story? You are merely a player, Sarah. And today is the day you must play. What do you want from me? Honestly? For you to understand the truth." The shadow paused, tilting its head as if contemplating its words. "You are a reflection of this town's deepest fear. You must choose between light and dark. Save them or save yourself." Her pulse raced. "I can't leave them. I want tea." Once again, such a noble declaration. The voice dropped to a whisper, chilling her to the bone. "But in your pursuit of heroism, you may find that sacrifice is a weighty treasure." Fear wrapped its icy fingers around Sarah's heart. Was she supposed to sacrifice herself for her friends? The thought gnawed relentlessly, filling her with doubt. She felt the ground shift beneath her, an unsettling ripple, as if the very town were alive, watching her struggle. "Choose, sweet Sarah," the figure's glowing eyes narrowed. "Before the sun sets, or you may lose everything." With a deep breath, Sarah clenched her fists, anger flickering to life inside her. "You won't scare me. I'll find another way." The shadow lunged forward, its form shifting and swirling like black smoke. "Will you? Or will you succumb to despair?" In that moment, the sun dipped behind a cloud, casting the world into sudden twilight. A cacophony of whispers filled the street, haunting echoes of urgency. "Find us, save us, stop." "No!" she screamed, frantically searching for the source. But all around her, the sun streets warped into grotesque shapes, and shadows expanded, consuming the town. Sarah felt a tug at her heartstrings, a painful reminder that her loved ones were trapped within that darkness. "Time is running out." The figure hissed, its teeth glinting. "Make your choice, or lose them both." As fear clawed at her mind, she felt a sudden rush of clarity. With resolve, she shouted back, "If I'm going to save them, I'll face whatever you throw at me." The mocking expression twisted into something darker, more sinister. "So be it, we shall see what you're truly worth." Then, the figure vanished, fading into the shadows, lost among the echoes of her brother's cries. The town became eerily silent, leaving Sarah with nothing but the pressure of her indecision heavy on her chest. And as the light continued to wane, Sarah knew she was no longer just playing a game. She was hunting for truths buried in her past, and the town itself, now cloaked in uncertainty and fear, would reveal its secrets. With a racing heart, she whispered to the encroaching darkness, "I will not let you win," but deep down, she feared she may have already lost. What revelation awaited her in the heart of the town, and would she survive the choices ahead? The shadows around Sarah thickened, curling like smoke against the cool evening air. Everything felt distorted, as if the town itself was holding its breath, waiting for her next move. She inhaled sharply, tasting the bitter tang of fear mixed with desperation. "Emma! Jake!" she called, voice trembling. But all that returned was the mocking silence. It was as if the town swallowed her cries, laughing at her resolve. Straining her ears, she tried to parse through the whispers. "Find us, save us," echoed around her, but their source remained elusive. Panic surged. Each breath felt heavier, a reminder that time was slipping away. The ground beneath her quivered, and she staggered back, struggling to stay grounded. "Focus, Sarah," she murmured to herself, the words barely escaping her lips. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, elongating toward her like fingers reaching for her heart. She turned on her heels, running toward the old town hall, a massive gray stone structure looming ahead. It had always been a beacon, a place for community. Was it still? Or has it turned into a hub for nightmares? Each step felt like stepping into a dream filled with dread. As she reached the door, it creaked open by itself, revealing an interior drenched in dim light. Dust motes danced in the air, glimmering like tiny ghosts. The walls whispered tales of loss and sorrow, heavier than the air outside. "Emma! Jake!" she shouted again. The emptiness in the hall was suffocating. A long table stood in the center, covered in yellowed papers and faded photographs, like relics of her memories. She approached it cautiously, the wood cold against her fingertips. Beneath a pile of documents lay a photo of her brother, a snapshot of laughter frozen in time. But her heart sank when she noticed the edges of the picture were charred, as if someone had tried to destroy it. "No," she gasped, pushing the fear back. Was it a warning? From the corner of her eye, movement flickered, a shadow slipping down the hallway. Without thinking, Sarah sprinted after it, her heart pounding wildly against her ribcage. The sound of her footsteps echoed louder, a constant reminder that she was not alone. The hallway narrowed, twisting like a serpent. The shadow seemed to dart from wall to wall, always just out of reach. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices pleading for salvation. "Help us, save us!" Then she saw a door at the far end, slightly ajar. Hope surged within her, mingling with dread. What lay behind that door? Could it be a way to save them? Without thinking, she lunged for the door, shoving it open. Inside, the room pulsed with a dark energy. Paintings lined the walls, grotesque images depicting people twisted in agony. In the center stood an old well, the stone rim worn smooth by time. It hummed, vibrating under her feet, echoing with the voices of the past. "What is this place?" she breathed, stepping forward. Suddenly, a chilling presence surrounded her. "You've come too far," a low, gravelly voice rasped, echoing from the depths of the well. "And now, you must make your choice." The ground trembled, memories flooding her mind, her family, their laughter, the moment they vanished. "Will you sacrifice your past to save your future?" the voice taunted. Cold sweat dripped down her back as she fought back the rising tide of panic. The shadows gathered around her, whispering her fears back at her. "You will be alone if you choose them. No. I won't abandon them," she yelled defiantly, clenching her fists. And as if in response, shadows surged from the well, reaching for her, eager to pull her into the abyss. The walls shook, and Sarah stumbled back, heart racing. "What must I do?" she screamed over the cacophony, eyes darting for an escape. Then, from the depths, the voice responded, low and ominous, face the darkness, or lose everything to the night. The room spun, the weight of the decision crashing down on her. She felt the darkness inching closer, whispering her name, promising to consume her whole. Sarah's breath quickened as she realized her choice was imminent. How far was she willing to go? The whispers grew louder, drowning her thoughts as shadows clutched her limbs. Every second felt like a lifetime, locked in desperate anticipation. Could she confront the darkness? Or would she let it claim her? And as the last light flickered, engulfing the room in darkness, a scream tore from her lips. I will fight. But how? What awaited her in the shadows? Would she be lost like so many others before her? The town grinned in silence, its secrets tightening their grip around her. Her heart raced with fear. The truth was waiting, but at what cost? The shadows twisted and curled around Sarah, their weight oppressive, holding her immobile as the echoes of her scream bounced off the walls of the dim room. Every hair on her body stood on end as if the darkness itself quivered with her resolve. I will fight, she repeated, but uncertainty clawed at her heart. Yet somewhere beneath the overwhelming dread, a flicker of hope ignited within her. She remembered Emma and Jake, their sweet faces illuminated by innocent laughter. I'll find them. I'll bring them home, she settled on the promise, fists clenched as she steeled herself, ready to confront whatever horror awaited. Brave words, sweet Sarah, the gravelly voice crooned, coming from the depths of the well with a sinister undertone. But do you truly understand what fighting means? Pain and sacrifice linger in the shadows, they demand a price. Enough! She screamed, her voice piercing through the chaos as adrenaline surged through her veins like fire. I won't let fear dictate my actions. I will face the truth, no matter how painful it is. The shadows recoiled for a brief moment, as if her defiance caught them off guard. She took a daring step forward, feeling wisps of darkness graze her skin. With every breath, she summoned the memories of her children, imagining their joy and their light shattering the oppressive grip of fear. I will not abandon them. With renewed strength, she approached the well, its ominous presence beckoning her with an inexplicable pull. Fear can bait temptation, the voice droned ominously, but it can also grant clarity. What will you offer in return for your family? Sarah knelt by the well's edge, peering into its depths, the gaping void swirling with shadows. It radiated sorrow, a mourning echo resonating from the forgotten souls trapped there. I will face my past, she declared, drawing strength from within her core. I will confront what torments me until the very end. Very well, the voice replied, and she felt a sudden rush of wind, icy fingers swirling around her, pulling her into the well's depths. She fought against its grasp, determined to hold her ground. You must descend and uncover the truth behind the haunting shadows. Only then may you find the path back to them. As she fell into the depths, time warped around her, memories collided and twisted until they formed a dark tapestry of fragmented moments, laughter, love, and betrayal. She saw flashes of a birthday party, her brother's wide smile, and the horror of that fateful day when everything changed. Seek out the truth, but know it bears weighty consequences, echoed in her mind, fading as she grasped for meaning in the swirling chaos. With a final thud, Sarah landed on the cold, stone floor of a long-forgotten chamber, illuminated by flickering candles that lined the damp walls. Shadows danced wildly as she stood, unsure of her surroundings but ready to confront her past. This room was filled with remnants of forgotten memories. The faces of the lost lingered on the walls, frozen mid-action in a frantic ballet of fear and pain. Then, a figure appeared from the shadows, an old woman with deep-set eyes, flooded with wisdom, yet weighed down by sorrow. You seek your children, the woman said, her voice gravelly but surprisingly calming. Yes. I must find them. I can't let this place consume them. Sarah implored, desperation clawing at her voice. The shadows hold their essence, but you must first confront the truth buried within, the woman replied, gesturing toward an ancient mirror hanging crookedly on the wall. It shows what we fear most and must face before we can move on. With trembling fingers, Sarah stepped toward the mirror. The glass shimmered, pulling her gaze instantly into its swirling depths. Scenes shifted before her, her childhood friends, laughter turning to screams, the moment of darkness that swallowed them whole. She saw herself, a young girl shuddering in the aftermath of a tragic event. What are you hiding? She murmured, and the reflection shifted. It morphed into a younger version of herself, allowing pain to seep from her heart. Sorrow, guilt, regret, all entangled in a desperate plea pressed forth from the depths of her soul. Emma Jake, I'm sorry, the reflection whispered, tears cascading down her cheeks. I couldn't protect you then. With every word, the heaviness pressed down upon her, suffocating her resolve. No. I can change that. I won't let the darkness win, I will save them. But the pain was palpable, the weight of her acknowledgement striking her like a physical blow. She staggered back, awareness dawning and flooding her heart. Sarah, the old woman encouraged, stepping closer. To confront the shadows, you must accept your true self, not just the light but the darkness within you. Only then will you find your strength. Something clicked within Sarah. It wasn't simply a fight against the shadows, it was a battle against her own heart, her own fears. Could she allow herself to be whole, to embrace the traumas of her past and forge them into resilience? I will accept it all, she declared, feeling the warmth of her children's love swell within her chest. She turned back to the mirror, her eyes fierce and steady. This pain brought you here, but it does not define me. The shadows thickened, swirling in a tempestuous frenzy, screeching and wailing as they clawed at her ankles. Yet, as Sarah stood firm, the darkness hesitated, an unexpected pause in a relentless storm. Illuminated by the flickering candlelight, she straightened. I will find the truth, face my fears, reclaim my family and lift this town from the grip of despair. Each word burgeoned with resolve, breaking the cycle of hurt. And then, the mirror brightened, clarity cascading over her as figures of her children emerged. Mom! Their voices harmonized, filled with both joy and urgency. With tears streaming down her face, she bellowed, I'm coming. We'll break free together. The shadows recoiled, defeated by her unyielding spirit. The woman smiled, her presence illuminating the room. To uncover the truth is to embrace adversity and push through. The shadows fear the light you carry, Sarah. Your family is waiting. As warmth enveloped her and the room transformed into a landscape alive with color and vibrancy, Sarah felt the connection to Emma and Jake deepen, pulling her forward. The weight that once bore down on her lifted, replaced by an unshakable truth, the hope to rekindle the love buried beneath layers of fear. And as she lunged forward, the world exploded in brilliant colors, pulling her toward a freedom she long sought. The shadows hissed their last, dissipating like smoke in the wind. What awaited her on the other side? The sound of her children's laughter ignited hope anew, urging her to reclaim their bond and confront the darkness that had tried to tear them apart for far too long. She emerged into the light, fear lingering just outside, relieved yet aware, and she knew she had all the strength she needed, not just to save her children, but to restore Willow Creek as a place forged from love, not sorrow. As she ran forward, the future gleamed before her, ripe with possibilities and a sense of unity that had almost been lost. But even now, the call for support thrummed around her like a heartbeat. Don't forget, you need to subscribe now. Smash that like button now to keep the pulse of this community alive. Flood the comments section with your own theories about the ending. Every voice matters. And for those who cherish stories of truth and bravery, share this journey immediately with at least 5 friends. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second, because only true fans know the importance of lifting each other up as we navigate through the shadows together.